Hi, and welcome to Untethered with Jen Liss, the podcast that's here to help you break free, be you, and unleash your inner brilliance. I'm your host, Jen, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how to live your life with no regrets. Hey there, unicorn. It's Jen. Welcome back to the podcast for this Thursday thread. It's a Thursday thread, threading out a little nugget from Kyle Hamilton's episode. So Kyle was on the podcast on Tuesday. He is a digital marketer, has a digital marketing agency, and he told the story that has led him to this point. The path that felt like it was set for him when he was young was to grow up and be a doctor, as many of the people in his family have. And over the years, he became what he called a ski bum. He traveled Europe for a little bit. He did all of these things that definitely did not necessarily align with the path that he had set for himself. And there were still moments where he had decided to go to law school. He went back to that, I should get a real job. He had this thought in his head, I should get a real job. And how many of us have those moments where we feel like, okay, I should get a real job. I should do this the adult way. And we start making decisions in our lives that we feel like are the adult way. I need to do it this way. This is the way that it needs to look. And one of the really cool stories that he told was when he had gone to France right after high school and he was looking for a job, like getting to the point of desperation. He had applied at so many jobs. He wanted to be able to work in France for the summer and he could not find a job, something he thought was going to be easy. Like, sure, I can find just a waiting job. No big deal. He could not find a job anywhere. And he has in his head that he's going to get a waiting job. And he finally finds this place where they're willing to offer him a job, but it's not to wait tables, it's to be a cook. And he's like, I hardly know how to boil an egg. I can't be a cook for you. And they're like, let us just try. And he could have said, no, I have in my head that this is the way that it's going to be. But he said yes, and ended up opening him up to all kinds of possibilities that obviously influenced his life in many ways. And how often do we do this? How often do we have a way that we think life needs to be? Like, well, I need to be a doctor. I have to prove that I can work a real job. I mean, even myself, when I went into corporate, there was a piece of me, there was a big piece of me that felt like I needed to prove something. I needed to prove to myself. I needed to prove to my family. I needed to prove to my previous teachers who had believed in me. And to all the people, to the world, that I could go back and get my degree. Now, I knew I obviously have the drive. I have the determination. I had already built a solid business. I have the determination to go get a degree. But I needed to prove. I had something to prove. I had to prove that I could work a real job, which even then at that time, I had such interesting feelings because some of my own hair clients, as I was leaving, they would say some things to me like, oh, you're going to go get a real job. And I was like, that opened up a door for me even right there of having that experience of people not believing that I had previously been doing a real job, doing my taxes as a small business owner, as a small business owner, I did so many things. I did inventory. I don't think that people realize the behind the scenes that goes on for, any business owner, but a stylist, a hairstylist, there is a lot of behind the scenes work. So your hairstylist is doing many things, especially if they are a small business owner, if they are working for themselves that you do not realize behind the scene they are doing. That was a real job. When I got into the corporate world and I just got to sit behind a desk for 8 hours, I was like, what is this luxury of me getting to sit behind a desk? But, as that pearl started to shift, I realized it was not the pearl for me sitting there behind a desk. I was actually maybe should have taken it as a sign when I was in physical pain every day sitting behind that desk. I actually had to go and see a physical therapist. I was in so much pain from sitting all day because I had previously spent my entire life standing and moving and bending and shifting and using my muscles all day, that sitting behind a desk was the most painful thing, which is perhaps a metaphor for my corporate experience. Actually, there were so many gifts that I gained in corporate. And at the same time, it turned out not to be the thing for me, but I have no regrets. I have no regrets. Just like Kyle was sharing in his story, there's not a single regret along the way. Could I have stayed being a hairstylist? Yes. Now I realize, looking back, if I had had the tools that I have now, I could have stayed in the hair business. I could have grown in the hair business. I could have done all of these things that were dreams of mine, but I didn't realize were dreams of mine. But do I regret that? Am I sad about that? Is there a part of me that thinks, how cool might that have been if I had the courage to stand on stage and cut hair at hair shows? That was definitely something I had kind of wanted to do, but couldn't believe in the dream for myself at the time. That now I have the skills that I totally, could do that. But I have no regrets about it. I realize that every single thing that has led me to this point has led me to this point for a reason. Every experience that I have had, the light, the dark, the good, the bad, every single one of them. And I don't even think that any of those need to be judged by those terms. Every experience is the experience that it is. And this is a hard thing to say because we experience grief. We experience loss. We experience sadness. And indeed, I have been blessed in my life to not have the full cup of that as some other people have. And at the same time, how do we live a life with no regrets? How do we truly live a life with no regrets? I thought it would be fun to look and see what ChatGPT says. I asked ChatGPT before. I always say GB. It's GP. It should be GB. It just sounds better. But ChatGPT, how do you live your life with no regrets? Let's see what they have to say. Living a life without regrets involves making mindful choices, learning from experiences, and focusing on personal growth. Congratulations to anybody listening to this podcast, because that's basically what we're talking about here. Making mindful choices, learning from our experiences, focusing on personal growth. So if you're listening to this podcast, I just want you to celebrate yourself right now because you are on the path to truly living your life with no regrets. That's really what we're doing here. We're untethered unicorns. We are seeking the way to get to when we are 90 years old. We look back and we say, that was fucking brilliant. That's truly my goal in life. And it has taken me some time, some searching, some mindful choices, some learning from my experiences, focusing on personal growth, and doing one of the things that Kyle and I talked about in the Tuesday episode, allowing myself to fail, allowing myself to receive one more no, putting myself out there in ways that are really uncomfortable, because you don't regret doing that. We don't regret doing that because the growth and the learning from the experiences that you get to have when you do that is huge. So ChatGPT did not suggest that you put yourself in more situations where you're willing to fail, but it did say some really good things: self-awareness, mindfulness, setting realistic goals, prioritizing your relationships. Actually, I lied. Here it is. Take calculated risks. Taking calculated risks, self-forgiveness, expressing yourself. I will add authentically. It says work-life balance. I'm not sure if that's necessarily a thing, but cool. And adaptability. So all of these things, like, we can all agree that all of these things can support us probably in living a life of no regrets, with exception of that balancing work and life. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I think instead of work-life balance, to me, crafting a life that you want to live. Like, why we don't need to balance a life that is crafted in a way that we want to live it. If we're doing all of the other things on this list, then what is the balance? Like your work is your life is your work. Every single piece of it all works together. What I'm realizing, something that I am highly focusing on is relationships because it's the area that I've been avoiding. So if we're talking about regrets and how do I live my life without regrets, what is that one area of your life where you have not been putting some of this focus, where you have not been bringing self-awareness, where you've not been allowing yourself to learn from mistakes and take calculated risks? Where have you not been forgiving yourself? Where are you not setting realistic goals? I noticed this. Guess where I noticed this for myself is in horoscopes of all places. I love to look at horoscopes. I always have. I just think it's fun. I love self-reflection, and horoscopes offer us the opportunity to self-reflect. And I would always skip over the love one because I'm married to my high school sweetheart. So that was the excuse that I used is I'm married to my high school sweetheart. I don't need to look at the love one. It occurred to me not so long ago that I was not paying much attention, not giving much effort in that area at all. I had a lot of assumptions. Both Joey and I have been working at this for a bit. We have a lot of assumptions. After being together for this long, we have so many assumptions of ourselves. And when I really started opening the door, which was a little scary to look at my relationships, I was doing this with all of them, with colleague relationships with my clients, with relationships with my parents, with relationships with my siblings and friends. It was happening all over the place. I wasn't willing to look there. So if we want to live a life with no regrets, that is the challenge that I would offer to all of us today, is to look at where is the one where I'm not looking. I'm always very interested to look in my horoscopes in career and in success and in all of those areas and living my dream life and all of these things that, it's like I was happy to look at those and excited to look at those, but I was just turning a blind eye. Anytime it would say love or relationships, I just didn't even care. I wouldn't read it. So where are the places in your life that you're glazing over? Because it is by deepening those areas. It's by looking in the areas, looking a little bit in the shadows and shining a light in there that we can really bring even deeper fulfillment for ourselves. Because when we're seeking, if you find yourself seeking, we're seeking and we're trying to fulfill that in other ways. We might be trying to fulfill the fact that our relationships are not serving us in the way that they could be. We're trying to fill that hole in our achievements, we're trying to fill that hole with our business. And it's actually in turning toward the thing that we've been ignoring that all of a sudden that hole is going to fill. And then we're not putting that striving and that pressure in the other area. Because we're looking for love through our business. And then it's like rebounding back at us because we're looking in the wrong place. So your business is going to take off. Other things are going to take off when we turn toward that little shadow area. So we'll challenge for you today so that we can more deeply live a life that truly is crafted for us, a truly untethered, magical unicorn life. And, also one thing that I want to note about is simply doing things when the time is right. We know if something about this message strikes you, if it's lighting something up inside of you, the time is right. If you're feeling like not interested and this is not landing with you today, the time's not right. And that's okay. That is okay. We get to choose when we turn inward on something and when we don't. And we can't be doing all things at once, but things show up for us when they're meant to. And so if this feels like something that feels really great to you, it's lighting up, then I encourage you to take a look inward. As always with our Thursday threads, let's close with a moment of conscious breath. So settling in wherever you are. If you're driving, you can come back to this later or keep your eyes open, just keeping yourself aware. If you're walking, if you're moving, you can do this alongside of us with your eyes open as well, just ensuring that your awareness is in the present moment. If you are seated, if you're standing, wherever you are, taking a big inhale into your nose, taking it back out through the nose. Another big, full breath, filling the belly. Back out through the nose. Feeling your body begin to sink, to land on that surface beneath you. Feeling the support of that surface, whether it's the ground, a chair. If you're outside walking, maybe it's the concrete surface or the soil beneath your feet. Letting yourself lean into that surface with your full body's weight. And let's continue this breath into the nose, out through the nose. Extending those exhales a little bit longer than the inhale. Just inviting yourself to be fully present in this moment. Letting yourself be right here where you are. Maybe noticing any textures around you, maybe the texture of the air itself. Maybe is it cool? Is it warm? Feeling it on your skin. Maybe feeling the texture of whatever is beneath your hands. Maybe it's your pants, or the steering wheel. Bringing your awareness to that texture. Just noticing it. Taking another inhale into the nose, pausing at the top, exhaling through the mouth completely. Thanking yourself for taking these few moments to bring yourself into the present, to bring your awareness mindfully into the here and the now, and recognizing all the magic that is created by allowing yourself to become present. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. It means the world to me that you would listen in. If there's something that deeply connected or resonated with you in this episode, I encourage you to share it. You can share it on social media by taking a little screenshot of the episode. Share it on social media. Share your takeaway. I would love to hear it. You can tag me. I'm Untethered Jen on Instagram. I will always reshare your posts if you tag me. You just keep shining your magical unicorn light out there for all to see. I'll see you next time.